live now. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. So first of all, a couple of things. I have Megan Moore, my very good friend, mentor, business coach, client, and all around badass divine feminine goddess here with us today. And one of the things neither one of us is super strong about is time zone math. So we are here a little bit later than planned, but that's fine because it's all in divine timing. We actually just spent about a half an hour catching up, chit-chatting, and talking about all the things that we're probably going to be talking about. So one thing I do want to mention here is that I'm going to be kind of glancing over this direction sometimes because I've got this streaming live here in Evolution University, and anybody who has comments or questions for Megan while we're live, I'm going to be sharing with us because Megan can't see them right now. Awesome. So let's get started. Megan, thank you. Thank you. I'm so obsessed with having you here. And some of the things we're going to talk about are what? What are some of the things we're going to chit chat about?
Well, I'm so excited because just a few minutes ago, it's like, I want to talk to you every single day because every time I see your face or have a chat with you, whether it's video or text or anything, I just feel better. I feel so uplifted. I think that we should talk about so many different things. Maybe I start with like a little bit of my background and my current situation and a little bit about the business, the life, relationship. Do you want me to kind of go through those three things and then we can dive in?
If you can be that organized about it, do it. Absolutely. Because yes, I want people to see you and learn about like who you are, as a human being, but a business genius. And I do not say that lightly, a genius. And third of all, your relationship transformations, like seriously massive transformations. But I also want to tell you, I feel the same. When we get on the phone, when we get on a Zoom, when we're talking, everything goes lights up. So
yeah, yay. It's magic. It really is magic. So I think I'm going to start with my relationship because it feels just that I have to say it first. So when I first met Gina, I think it was 6 or 7 years ago now. I was like trying to think.
2017-ish.
Crazy. Yeah. So we've had a great relationship since 2017. But when I first met Gina, I was married, and did I have both my kids? Yes, I had both my kids then.
Baby Rhett. 8-year-old or 7-year-old Rhett was baby Rhett.
I know. Yes. Always. I still catch myself calling him baby Rhett. But I was married at the time. I was running a really kind of big business. Financially, it was very successful. But my life and my relationship was basically shit. And I let nobody know, not a single soul. If you saw my social media, if you saw me in town, if you saw me teaching anything, it was like, cool, Megan's got her poop in a group. And that's the way it looked. But I was traveling, 2 to 3 times a month. I had an abundance of clients, and my marriage was just pathetic. I don't have any other words to describe it, but
well, you do have words to describe it. It was abusive.
It was very abusive, and I still hesitate to say that because I have this. And I think a lot of people, I hope that by me telling some of this story, some of you can bring that awareness that maybe you are in a situation that you don't want to be in. But I was being abused, and I didn't let anybody know, not a single person, not my closest friends, not my family, not my clients. Didn't go to therapy, didn't see a counselor, didn't have a pastor in my life that I could share things with, but I just
so you really suffered in silence.
Yeah. Wow. But I dove deep into my business. So I was like just 100 and whatever % into the business. So the business was thriving, but the rest of my life was just not doing very well. And I was drinking excessively. We talked about this, drinking a lot, avoiding things a lot, and just kind of that's the biggest word. It was avoiding. I was avoiding everything and everyone by focusing on, the business so much, which was great. And I'm so thankful. But I ended up going through some bigger things in my relationship, finding out that there was some sort of, just a lot of things that I don't value. So cheating, money things, lying, like just, it was weird. And I'm just going to say this because the abuse didn't seem to bother me, but those things were in front of me. And I had a very specific title for them. You are cheating. You are doing drugs. So there was a title there. But the other stuff was like hard to put a name on. So I didn't. Anyway,
interesting.
Yeah. Fast forward to a few years later. And
well, before we get to that, I want to, is it okay if I kind of,
I am now an open book.
Okay. So yes, you are, which is one of the things that we talked about. Like, whoa, that is such a gift to the world at large. You're opening up your book, but let's go parallel to that time and when our lives intersected, and I started to spend more time with you as a client in your Hello Life Academy, going to events, seeing you in person. I had lived that to a certain degree. I don't think nearly to the degree that you did. And I saw it. I knew what was happening with you. And you tiptoed around and sort of started asking me questions, the Bathtub Confessions. I call them. I swear, I think I kind of want to do a book club or a series on the Bathtub Confessions, because I said, basically, I remember I point blank asked you once, I said, why are you still there? And you said, which is so common, and the reason I want to bring this up is because this is something I hear a lot from women, and I know that this is a very common response. Marriage is for good, or some, a lot. It's a vow I took, and I do not intend to not live it out. So it's an agreement, a contract we make with something within us, to the world, to somebody else, to our parents. We're making this agreement and holding up to something that also literally does not serve who we are, and it can kill us from the inside out. And so I really wanted to just I remember that conversation, and that was it. I didn't poke you in it. I was just like, okay. No, and I was like, that's where you were, and that's fine.
It was something that anytime someone would ask, because people would get glimpses. Like, for example, we don't want to live in the past, but I'm just going to share this specific story because this probably happens to people every day or every week. I hope it doesn't, but I think the reality is it does. We had a dinner party with friends, and we were sitting there, and I made the whole dinner, was taking care of the kids, managing all this stuff. And he said, in front of this couple that we had been close with, you're a lazy bitch, in front of everybody. And it slipped. He just let it slip. It was like the start of like slipping little sentences. And, it
was something he normally would say in private.
Oh yeah.
But he was becoming a little sloppy.
Yeah, he was getting sloppy. And he had said that, and everybody just shut down. But here's the interesting thing. Everybody ignored it. Nobody said anything. Everybody just kept eating, drinking, laughing. And I was like, wow, like I'm not around the right people right now. Because if that's an okay behavior for them and I'm accepting it, I want to be different. I want to live a different life. So it was a combination of me constantly saying, I made this vow, I made this commitment to God. Even if it wasn't, a Catholic God, I made a commitment.
Right.
I am not going to mess this up and be a quote unquote failure. And,
failure for you at that point was divorce. Divorce equaled failure at that point in your life.
That's right. That's 100%.
Would you say that today?
No, never. I would say that for my personal experience, divorce was the biggest success for me. It was like the thing that it was just like, gosh, I can't even tell you, because I lived in this whole like false reality that I couldn't leave, and there was no way. I didn't know the steps either, which is a whole other thing that people need to talk about. But
sorry to interrupt again. I just want to clarify. We do not promote divorce.
No.
This is not a divorce promotion at all.
I don't do divorce coaching.
No, this is a find your truth, find yourself, love yourself, then do what, you can change your relationships, your current relationships, you can change without leaving just by changing your relationship with you. So carry on. I just want to qualify and make sure people don't think, because I've been accused. Why do you tell people to leave their husbands? I don't ever.
Here's the
thing. I tell them to find themselves.
Yes, I get so excited. Thank you for bringing it up, because not once in our conversations in 5+ years did you ever tell me it's time to leave, get a divorce. You never ever you never said that. I think you never said it for multiple reasons, because you teach people how to find themselves, trust their path. But the other thing was, you were listening to me. So you were listening to me as a really great coach, because you were hearing that if you said that to me, I would shut down. Right. And great mentors and great coaches do that. They don't tell you what to do next. And that's what you did. So, the reason why I share my story now is because I don't want someone to look at what I did and say, that's exactly what I have to do. I want them to listen, because at one point in their life, relationship, or business, they're going to remember an episode that they watched, a podcast that they listened to, or a book that they read. And one point in their life, they're going to say, those little memos that I was getting at different times led me to this point, whether that point is to get serious help or to leave or to stay, but you get to decide. So I think it's like you called them earth angels, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it was. It was like I was filling my cup, quote unquote, my cup with earth angels that were coming at the right time. So when I met Gina and I was shut down and wasn't expressing, and then slowly, I was like, oh, you mentioned that this happened in your relationship. I'd like to hear more about it. And then you gave the opportunity for me to open up. So anyways, we could talk about that forever, and I think we should, but
that's so good.
At the time, that wasn't an option for me. But fast forward a few years later, he actually sat me down and said, I don't want to be married anymore. And I can tell you, every cell in my body just lightened up. And I was like, okay, it was, and the thing is that I have to tell everyone is I had lived in such a controlling environment for 10, 12, almost 15 years that anything I did, I needed permission to do. Yeah. So by him giving me permission to leave, it sounds a little bit crazy, but it was such a gift. It was like, thanks for listening to all my prayers. Like that's
yeah.
But then, the beautiful Covey thing that happened in the world. We had to live together for a very long time. We had to keep the house. And
he wasn't going on his 5-day business trips, right?
No, he wasn't leaving.
He had been.
He was not leaving. He was not leaving. There was phones flying around the house. There was tomatoes being thrown at each other. It was not okay. And at one point, and again, I'm just sharing this with people and it feels good to say it, there was one situation where I had to call, I had to get help from the police. I had to. And again, I felt I have a very visible company. I live in a town where people, just like many towns, I live in a town that everybody talks about everybody, especially if you have a business that helps people get visible. So
that was your job, to be visible.
That was my job to be, and it's
wow, what a paradox. What an interesting paradox.
But so, you know what, that was another moment that changed everything, because it was the moment that I had to be like, I'm standing on my own 2 feet. I'm taking control. I have support. I have these earth angels. So basically at that point, which I decided I am going to move into a tiny home. So, and left for the side of a mountain, lived in a tiny home for a little bit. I dated. So I openly dated. Gina helped me with every step of that, literally from, my dating profile to everything.
Some of those stories still, I mean.
Yeah. One day.
So fun. So much fun we had.
But you really did. You helped me navigate that. My one relationship, my past relationship, does not need to carry forward into any other relationship because it's not me.
Yeah.
So that was a really kind of eye-opening experience. But I will tell you, dating was one of the best things that I could have done post-divorce. It allowed me to communicate differently. You taught me that, like, I'm basically like interviewing people to make sure, what I mean? Like it was just a really good thing. Scary, trust me, scary, but also good to remind yourself that how do I say this? For 12 years, I didn't really feel like a goddess, like a woman, right?
Yeah.
It was things like, you're ugly, you're fat, you're disgusting, you need a boob job, you stink, you don't shower enough. So every time I saw myself, I was seeing that.
Yeah, those were the affirmations. That was the programming.
Like, imagine how fucked up it would be to open your affirmation deck and be like, you like, just
get a life.
Yeah. But it would be like, you only make mistakes. You don't know how to do this. You're just like, holy Hannah, like just.
Meanwhile, I remember like the 5-day business trips, he's gone. You're raising 2 very young children, running an amazing business and maintaining a social life and a home.
I know.
And paying for all of it. You're paying for everything. Yeah, you were not being financially supported. So this was not like a golden kind of parachute situation. So there was so much just mind-blowing things in there.
Yeah, not $1 was given to me at any point. I wasn't even allowed to eat the food in the fridge if he came home with it. So it was a situation where I worked so hard at my business because my business fed my kids and my business, did all these beautiful things. And I also worked with women who, in a crazy way, you said this, like, we met because you had already experienced some of what I experienced. A lot of the women I was working with were going through situations that I was going through. Yeah. And
they needed their businesses to work.
So I understood that. And that was a large part of why I created Hello Life Academy, because I knew I wanted women to have the freedom, and I still say this, the freedom to choose to stay, to leave, to travel, to stay home, whatever the fuck they want to do. I wanted to be able to teach them how to do that. And that's what we did. And we did a really good job of it.
Yes.
And so I guess kind of back to the whole relationship thing. I ended up dating a lot of losers and great people. And when I say losers, I mean losers for me. Like, maybe, I don't know, maybe
low value, low investment men.
Okay.
They did not put the investment in you, and until you started to raise your own worth.
Right.
And that was, you raised the value of the partners you attracted.
I want to take that back, because I don't want to say that they were losers.
Right.
Because that's not, I really didn't feel that way actually about any of them. I felt like they were all.
Well, some of them, I remember some of these guys, they were quite badass, but their treatment of women.
Yeah.
And you in particular, who knows how they treated other women, but they treated you like you were on the buffet menu.
Yeah.
You were not the price fixed meal. Like, hey, this is what I want. I want to remember those conversations.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Remember when?
Remember.
They were all gifts given to me though. And I do think about all of them, and I'm like, wow, like that was actually neat to experience. So when I say losers, I don't actually mean that at all. I mean, like, it wouldn't be a good fit in my life. But what happened, because I hadn't quite reached my point of accepting that I was worthy of this amazing love that would just, sweep me off my feet, and that I was worthy of loving myself, I ended up dating someone who quickly turned into be an extreme version of my ex-husband. And when I say extreme, I mean not a quiet person, not a quiet, like, I'm going to abuse you behind here. A person who was right in your face.
Controlling, obsessive. What were the characteristics? Because I know so many people in our audience experiences. And he came on, I remember hearing about this guy in the beginning. Surface, whoa.
Holy
He
Hannah.
looks.
Yeah.
Yep.
The exact. So I want to just, I want to say this because it feels so important to say. When I first met my ex-husband, he walked into the room and I said, oh my gosh, I'm going to marry that guy. He is tall, blonde hair, blue-eyed. He's an engineer. He's got money. He drives a nice car. And it was like, check, 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 check. He, a few weeks later said, let's go to LA. Flew me to LA, got me diamond earrings, just like, whoa. Exactly. Whoa.
Love bombing. We call that love bombing.
Oh my gosh. And I then quickly realized, he said after a few weeks, well, I don't love you. Like, very specifically said that. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll marry you anyways. Just like wild. So 13, 14 years later, when I start dating, I meet this guy. He works, he's got a great banking job, amazing, makes tons of money, drives a beautiful car, has no quote unquote, what I can see as like luggage that I might have to carry that I would be willing to carry for someone that is amazing and loving and all those things. But he, 2 weeks into it, says, let's go away to this beautiful vineyard and like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, like drooling.
I remember that trip. Then what happened?
Then the trip happens. And this is just a short few weeks into it. The trip happens, and all of his stuff that, again, he might have been hiding, his mask came off and he lost it on me. He, left me in the hotel room without a key. He took his car keys. He basically said, find your own way home. And I called my friend and I said, you need to come get me. I can't go through this again. And she said, well, call me tomorrow and let's see how things are going. The next day, he love bombs me again. Right. But in my mind, I know this pattern and I tell myself, quote, seriously, what would Gina do? And I'm like, I'm not doing this. But I'm going to go home, whatever. So many different things. Turns out though, that as soon as I want to end the relationship, which I do as soon as we get back, he starts leaving presents on my porch, starts driving by the house, starts telling me that he's going to visit the kids. He had never met the kids. He starts creating Instagram accounts of my intimate photos that I shared with him. He pops onto my Zooms with clients, basically threatens my new partner, threatens my life, sends me articles about kidnapping people and killing them and that he's on his way over. Just like a freaking scary, scary, scary time. And I'm smiling because I think, wow, remember when? And then I think the time that I had ended things with him, I met the most beautiful man. Like, and I didn't care if I ended up in a relationship. I wasn't looking, well, I was looking because we're always looking for soulmates and partners and things. But he walked into my life and was just, I hate saying this, but I do feel this way. And I wrote about it on my personal page the other day. You feel like home. And that doesn't mean that I'm like, would do anything for you or like, it's a home. It's like, wow, I can take my bra off and sit down and just be with you kind of love. And So I met him at the time that I was ending this other relationship, and what a wild ride.
And that
But
was a year ago, year and a bit ago.
that was a year and 4 days ago.
A year and 4 days, you guys. They just celebrated a year.
We just celebrated a year, and I have to tell everyone that, like, you know, the love that you're thinking of and the business you're thinking of and the everything is actually out there. It's crazy. Like, you know, I wrote things that I wanted to happen in my business and they all happened. I wrote things that I wanted to, and you forced me, I say forced, but you did. You would recommend, write it down, write it down. Where are you? Where are you? And I'd
What's
write
your
it down.
vision? What's your vision? What's your vision? Because the thing that is out there that you want, it's here. But what did you say when we first started chatting before we went live? What did you say that you started to do?
Okay, so, well, I started to listen to myself, and I say this with like so much gratitude to you and gratitude to myself and like
And Marianne Williamson.
and Marianne Williamson. But it was like everything I knew to be true or not true was right in front of me all the time. I knew the day I walked down the aisle with Darren that it just didn't feel like the thing I wanted to do. But my mom looked at me and said, you don't have to do this. And I said, well, Mom, I have to now. And I was like, crazy. And then with the business, HLA, Hello Life Academy. So I knew, I was so excited. Every ounce of my body knew that that had to happen. And it did. And I started to put it together, and I did the client, like, okay, I'll start with my first 10 clients at this price, let the river flow. And it felt good. And I knew, and people said to me, no one is going to buy anything that you sell online. That's what they said. And I was like, no, I believe in this.
Wow.
But I knew it, and I listened to myself. And then, you know, when I transitioned, which there's a whole story with Hello Life Academy dissolving, which has to do with my ex-husband as well. I had to pivot. I wanted to pivot.
Yeah.
And people had been telling me for years, you need to do an agency. You need to do an agency. And I was like, I don't know. And then last year I could feel it myself. I was like, this is going to be golden. I love this. This is going to rock and roll. And it's just exploded because I listened to myself. I didn't listen when other people told me to do it. I listened to myself. And even with Neil, like on our first date, which people are like, you're crazy. I could feel, you know, that I could feel that things were just like coming together. And there was no rush. There was no control. There was no, I have to. It was, oh, I want to. Let's do this. Let's go on dates. Let's play. Let's have conversations. Let's have deep conversations. Let's have surface level conversations. Let's do all the things. And like, you know, it was so beautiful. But I can honestly say that the biggest mistake I've ever made in my life, ever, is not listening to myself. And the only way I could start listening to myself was reduce my drinking, reduce the toxic people in my life, and open up to accept that I have a gut that is powerful. And we all do. I accepted it. I was like, you know, you just got to listen. So that was the biggest mistake, not listening to myself. And I think I'm still going to do that sometimes because it's.
Well, I think that that's normal and natural, because as we always will be doing is evolving and expanding, will expand into new territory, which is uncomfortable. And so there will be that little bit of our next level self calling us, and that little scared part of us going, no. I'm gonna just, this is good, this is safe, that's crazy, this is okay. So the wobble is there.
Do you want to, I'm like such a chatty Cathy. Do you want to hear a story about listening to myself and then everyone else thinking it was a mistake? So
Absolutely.
when I bought my tiny house, I was so excited about it. I listened to myself. Something inside me said, do this, do this, do this. And a lot of people were like, are you sure? Like, that's crazy. Are you sure? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, it just feels right. I'm just going to ignore everybody. I need to do it. So I did it. So I moved to the side of the mountain, live in the tiny for 8 or 10 weeks. Okay. Which is not a long time. I spent $160,000, moved to the side of the mountain. I decide one day that I don't want to be here. This doesn't feel right. It doesn't
I
feel
remember
right.
you were lonely. You said, I'm lonely here.
I was lonely. I felt it. I could feel myself being mean about things that I was getting kind of like, this person sucks, that sucks. I knew I was listening to myself though. And I was like, I got to get out of here. And I made the choice. And within 3 days, moved back to the city, found a place, listed the tiny on Airbnb. And the tiny is one of my biggest income sources now. So listen to yourself. Like I listened. For somebody on the outside, they might be like, wow, you're batshit crazy. That was a lot of things that you evolved through quickly.
Yeah.
But because I actually started to say, what am I feeling? What should I do? Trust yourself. And I did it. And
I think that that's a really important distinction to make, because when we start to truly, truly listen and connect and trust ourselves, that's when things happen very fast. That's when the universe just just really gets behind us and says, yes, go, next step, next. And the breadcrumbs just keep showing up. It's like, just ridiculous.
It's so crazy, but I do have to say, like in 18 months, I experienced so much. And like, that includes quite a bit of trauma, quite a bit of loss, quite a bit of like, and the whole time though, like I would be just like so many people, like I'd literally be just like on my knees in the bathroom, just crying, saying, why me? Like, what is happening? Like, I literally lost my house, lost my marriage, was the last time I was ever going to live with my kids full time, lost my business because my ex wouldn't sign some papers, lost all my savings, lost everything. I had calls because it was like, your car is 1 month overdue. I'm like, fuck, like, I don't know. And it's not even about the money. I felt like I was in a book, someone else's book, where they talk about that bottom piece. And like, it's just like crazy. But then there was like always this voice, always, it's okay. It's okay. Something's coming. Something's coming.
That what you experienced in that short amount of time, what was building and building and building, and then the bottom fell out, that I like to look at as your ego is unraveling. You're letting go of all those things that you thought made you.
Yes.
This is who I am. I am this car. I am this home. I am this mother. I am this businesswoman. This is me. When really, none of that's true. And when we can let go of those things that we're clinging to so desperately, like, I have to hold on to this and keep this and make this float. When we let go of it, and sometimes it lets go of us, we find ourselves and we get to float like that hot air balloon. We cut all those sandbags and then the rocket ship.
I love that, because it's so true. I was humble, but I look back and I'm like, Megan, there was a lot of things that you could have worked on, like, and always, but I look back and I say, like, why was I defining myself by the event space that I was at, or the amount of people that signed up? And I remember saying to myself when I was going through like the shit of the shits, I said, I want a really beautiful, boring life when everything comes around. I kept saying that I want a really beautiful but boring life. And I think what that meant was get rid of your ego, because your ego is making the chaos in your life happen. And it's controlling you. And that doesn't define my core value of freedom. And when I met that man that turned out to be a stalker and did get arrested for it, that was my ego again saying, you went for the bait.
Yeah,
Like,
the car, the job, the money, the flash.
yeah. And, I never thought, how do I say, like, I never categorized myself as like a person that, wanted, I don't know. I just never saw myself as, because I feel like I'm pretty simple, but there was something inside me that was just, it needed to be like, you are an amazing human being. We're going to remind you of that, Megan, that you
Yeah.
could be on the side of a mountain with no running water, no electricity, and you will be surrounded by love. And that's kind of what happened. And
Yeah.
when I came back from Golden, from living at the Tiny, that whole stalker situation was still happening, but I had let go of him. I let go of wanting things, and I let go of also, having to work 24 hours a day. I stand by that. You do not need to hustle to have a beautiful life. Like, if you start hustling, take a few steps back and ask yourself why. What is the part of the ego that's coming up that's saying you have to work 24 hours? Like, why? So many full circles.
Yeah.
I literally can't believe all of the stuff, but I can, because I think that, for so many amazing people, it just like the avalanche comes down, and then we're like, okay, I got the equipment.
We're just left with our truth. And
Mhm.
that's when somebody lets go of all of that stuff that used to define them.
Mhm.
And they go, oh, all of this stuff I used to let validate me. I remember when the relationship 3 years ago, you remember Chris, I hung so much weight on it working out with Chris. And I just recently wrote about it, I think, not in your promo, but I just recently wrote a post about that, like how I put so much energy on Chris working out. He's a good guy, really great guy. I mean, oh my gosh, so opposite of anything I've ever had. But mostly I wanted it to work out with him because I wanted to be validated in my community and with my children. I'm like, oh, look, Gina can attract a wealthy guy who's also like spiritual, and he's got all this stuff going on, and we're a great couple. And we were in a lot of ways, but he wasn't ready. It was way too soon for him. And it was way more me needing that external validation. And I was just, when I let that go, and I remember being on a phone call with my girlfriend. And I said, what if it doesn't work out with Chris? And she just was like, this girl, she's amazing. She's like, yeah, what if it doesn't? Yeah. Sit with that feeling. Like, because I was holding on so tightly to it has to. And she said, what if it doesn't? Just be with the feeling of it doesn't, it's not going to work out with Chris. And can you accept that and feel it, and let yourself feel it and let it go. And with her on the phone, I just bawled. I cried. I sat with the feeling of, oh my God, it's not going to work out. There's a chance it would work out. And I let myself feel that so fully in the moment and cried, physically expressed. And then my shoulders dropped, my body relaxed. I no longer was clinging to it. And I was like, oh my God, that's a thing. And that was another life-changing moment, trajectory-changing moment for me. And I could let go of it.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And my ego unraveled a little bit more.
I love those experiences and we've talked about this in both of our teachings. We kind of have this analogy where you're on a path up the mountain, and there's things that are going to, and we use like, okay, a log goes on the path. What are you going to do? You have to look at it, you have to figure it out, and then you can go over it, or you can turn around and
turn around, go home.
Go home. But I'm a big
go back to your safe cabin, sit in your cabin.
Right.
Or build the muscles to climb over that log, or go around it, or dig under it, whatever. Go through it.
So imagine through all the shit, like, so you're building the muscles. Like, I've lifted so many heavy muscles, and not muscles. I have lifted weights. But I'm just thinking about how incredible my life is today, how friggin' amazing it's going to be next year and the
Right.
year after. Cause I'm like,
Mhm.
like, not that I want to be challenged every month, please, but it's like you build the tools and your reaction isn't so big either. You're like, okay, cool. There's a log. I have hiking boots. I'm going to get over it. Oh, there's a big snowstorm. I'm cool. I've got the equipment. I can do it. I have friends. I have family. Instead of like literally looking at that log, some of those difficult moments that first start to happen and you're like, oh my gosh, the log is going to roll down and it's going to just like squish my feet. And it's like, no, it's cool. We've got this. Like there's a bigger, beautiful person or someone looking out for each and every single one of us. And like, we got to choose a path. And that path is like, that's those little voices that come up to us. Like you want to live on the side of a mountain and have a garden one day and get married again and maybe again and have more kids. You're having those thoughts because you want that to happen. Like it's the most beautiful thing.
It's unique to you. It's unique to you because they've been placed in, those desires have been placed in your heart, not anybody else's, and your life experiences. So it's a combination of your life experiences and your true own desires, unique desires that are there for a reason. So if you have a certain desire and it just keeps coming up and maybe it's a theme in your life, there's a reason for it. And it could be meant for you if you choose it. And like when you come up to those logs and those boulders and you always have the choice to say, nope, I'm not ready. It's too much. I can't do it. Or to say, every boulder and tree that falls in front of my pathway is actually here to expand me, grow me, build my muscles. It's here for me. Everything is always working out for me, no matter what. When you have that like 100% belief, and that's something we develop, when you can always go to it, that's when you don't have those really dramatic inner reactions that you were just talking about. That's when things show up and it's like, oh yeah, right, okay, that's a thing. And like I literally just like live this funny life where like I'm allergic to drama. It just doesn't exist for me. I don't do emergencies. And when I feel something, like feel scary, because it doesn't mean that fear doesn't still come up. It can come up, but I observe it differently. I don't be it and think, oh, this is it. I go, oh, interesting. So this thought is coming up. I could choose to go down that spiral, or I can choose to know this is actually a thing that doesn't have to be it. And I teach clients this all the time. I get clients all the time going, I'm freaking out about this X, Y, or Z. And I say, well, remember, you always have that choice to choose the vision, go into the vision, create the vision of what you would rather see happen. And this could be in your own life, in your children's lives, in the world.
Yeah.
So this isn't the way it is. This is what's presenting as a result of your life experiences. And now you get to choose the vision of how you want it to be. And that alone elevates you and brings you into energetic match.
It's so powerful. Like, and I know I've given so many examples and you've given examples, but I have another example.
I love your examples.
When I was married, let's say those affirmation cards that need to be thrown out and have them one at a time, getting rid of them. One of the affirmations that was, repeated to me was, your business is going to fail. You're never going to have clients. Your business is going to fail. You're going to be broke. And it was like repeat. And that was half the deck almost. So every morning.
Yeah. Right.
Every morning.
Meanwhile, it was successful, like ridiculously.
It was not. It was easy. Money was flowing easily to me. And it was because at one point I had said, probably years prior, I'm going to be super successful financially. And then that's at the same time that, but so after I left, or, we parted ways, I kept saying to myself every morning, my business is not successful. I'm not going to be able to find any clients. I'm not worthy of clients. I'm going to be broke. And
Yeah.
quickly, clients stopped calling. I stopped putting content out. I stopped blogging. I stopped emailing. I stopped. I had created that log that was like impossible for me to move at that time.
You fed the log and it grew bigger.
The log. I was like,
you fed the log.
Like watering that log. It was like, here you go, here you go. And I can't remember what happened specifically to change that, but basically I had created a vision of not having clients.
Yeah.
And that vision was like, hey, here you are. But then, you know, it was a combination of little things like you talk about, those breadcrumbs that started to shift, because I started to tell myself, I'm good at what I do. I put a few offers out for very low. Actually, that's a lie. I door knocked. Do you remember the ladies? Like, did you watch Edward Scissorhands ever? The Avon?
No, I know about Avon and yeah.
She goes door to door. I
traveling
did that
salesman. Yeah.
because, and now that I can see this, my ego was so big that I would never have done that before.
Right. Because how could you go from, wait a minute, I have almost $1 million business to, hey, how are you doing?
That's right.
I've got this thing.
So I asked myself, I remember saying, what would I teach a client to do? Talk to your people, talk to your friends, reach out, door knock, because even though online digital marketing is amazing, there's nothing that beats a relationship. And you know, the first person that I door knocked, which wasn't a door knock because it was one, Covey, two, a
DM, a direct message.
A direct message. And I said, I don't have any work right now. I'm good at what I do. Will you let me do your shit for basically free for a month? Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Yes, of course. And then finally, my confidence, I started to say, oh my gosh, I'm back, baby. And
once again, you were serving. So let's talk about some themes here, because first of all, you've always been, you teach it to your clients, you've taught it to me, you've modeled it even when I didn't listen. And I was like, that's so slow, Megan. And now I get it. I listen, I practice. You taught about relationships. Your business is about relationships and letting people really get to know you. And that's what you model. That's why you and I have an amazing relationship. But it's like relationships are everything. And what was the other thing I was going to say?
My themes and patterns.
The themes. Yeah. Well, I think that was it. You modeled relationships. Oh, serving, and just serving. Do the thing you're here to do.
That's right.
Just keep on doing what you're here to do. Not what you think is the thing, but what you're here to do.
Yeah. And I you know, I volunteered when I didn't have any work. This is going to sound ironic to some people, but one of the quotes or things, and I still say it, is when in lack, give back. Right.
Yes.
So I literally had no money, right? Like one of those, Mom, what am I going to do? And decided to volunteer at the women's shelter, and not just volunteer for like 1 or 2 hours, fully take it on like biggest client, and volunteered. And it's been like over a year now. And
what? Wow.
And it's like, yeah, like I still think like whenever you feel, and I think this isn't a book and I wish I could remember because I feel bad, but whenever you feel like you don't have anything, there's someone else who really doesn't have anything. So give, serve, like, you know, it just completely changed my mindset.
I will tell you this, and I will tell anybody who ever wants to listen, the fastest way out of depression is to volunteer, is to serve, is to help somebody else. The fastest way.
You know, it was hard because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm working, but it was also truly that's what happened. It was like, okay, I'm love. Like there's humans in the world. Like, I guess it was just like a really good thing. And I still do it, even though we're making money again. And I still want to do it forever. Like right now, that's where my vision is. Yeah. And it's like, And you know, it's not something that it's like everywhere and this is what I do. It's like it makes my whole heart light up, and it goes back to why I started the company in the first place. Freedom. Like,
Right.
I want to help people. And that means some people are going to spend $16,000 and the next person is I'm going to volunteer for. And that's also part of like choosing your own path and stuff like that. But anyways, I am super, super, super thankful for you, Gina. Like I can't say enough great things about you to everyone. And I just was telling you before, I have a friend going through a situation, and I said, my really amazing mentor, Gina, always told me, you are going to look back at this moment and ask yourself, remember when? And that's a really powerful, you know, sentence for me, because every situation I go into now, I'm like, remember when you met the XYZ person, or remember when you never thought you'd make $1 million? Ha ha ha. Like,
Right. How preposterous. I remember when you and I had that conversation, Bathtub Confessions. You're in the bathtub and you were, I don't know which stage it was in, but I said, Megan, you're going to look back on this situation and go, remember when I was so afraid? It might have been when you were about to go to court with that person, client.
Yeah. It was, you know,
and I promised, I knew you were going to look back in that moment and go, that was a pivotal point. And everything shifted from there.
Yeah.
So no matter what you're going through.
That was a pivotal point. And we didn't talk about that, but that was a pivotal point because I had the courage to show up.
Yes.
It was the day before they shut everything down for you know, the thing that happened.
Yeah.
I had the courage to show up and face basically one of the scariest things I felt at the time I was going through. And they didn't show up. And I remember saying to myself, oh gosh, Megan, you're so brave. Like, you are so brave. And you know, that led me to be brave every little time along. And yeah, it was felt like shit, but it was like, you're brave. It wouldn't have been in my path if it didn't want to help me.
Right. Megan, I remember that day. I'm on the phone with you. I'm driving through Santa Monica. I am feeling almost terror for you, but I knew this was, like we talked about earlier, of all the things I need to do when I get focused, when I tune in, what is the next step for me? What is the next thing? And I knew that was going to be such I don't know how I knew, but I knew you long enough. I knew you well enough. I knew the situation. I know this is going to be a huge pivotal point in your life and business. And it was. And that's when I said, you're going to look back on this and go, remember when. And now that's a thing that you tell people, the remember when point.
Totally. And that specific situation, you know, allowed me to also say to people, like, you could do scary things. Like, you could do a scary thing. Like, and now I don't just say that, I actually believe it from the core of my body. Like, you can do scary things. The room only seems dark when you first walk in, then it starts to brighten up. Like, and it's again, it
brightens up from the light that you bring. Ooh, Megan,
I have to say something else. This is the kind of the last thing I know. I literally every single day, honestly, I still have the notes on my phone because everything's digital. Every single day, no matter what, I would wake up and the very first thing I did was I put April 7th, and it was kids, Enzo, Frank, craft dinner in my pantry, socks, underwear, Gina, like, you're on those, honestly, Tyler, like my mom. I would even put the people that I had gone on a date with on there. No matter what, I woke up and said, here's what I'm thankful for. And sometimes I wanted to throw my phone because I was like, this is hard. But by the end of that list, and I know people say make listen, but by the end of that list, I literally could get out of bed and shower. And it was like, you know, sometimes those lists, I look at them and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was thankful for like having socks. But it was the
Yeah.
only thing that was coming up for me some days, like, okay.
Mhm.
And people talk about having gratitude, but I actually do this other thing. So that list was when I was like kind of low. And
Mhm.
when we leave Golden now, I'm like, thank you, land. Thank you so much.
Right.
Thank you, Tiny. Like, whenever I travel now, I actually, which isn't a lot, but like I look around and I'm like, wow, this is really great. Like, I'm so thankful. Like, so again, that ego piece, but just so
That's
many.
you being present with your life, which is something that is a gift to be able
Yeah.
your presence is your gift.
So cheesy. Hashtag.
So funny. So
Yeah.
Annette is saying, Annette is on here. She's saying, I'm loving this video. Thanks for sharing. And haha, I've been holding on to not meeting someone for 2 years. And I don't know what that is related to, perhaps your conversation about showing up or not showing up.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's time for Annette to show up. Thank you, Annette. Do you have any more questions or comments? I appreciate it. But I have to say something about when I almost didn't show up for something. 2017, had that job, was living in Santa Monica in that gorgeous home that you never got to see. You never got to see that home, did you? Oh, I can't believe it. Megan and I have met up in person. She lives in Canada. I live in California, and sometimes Mexico. And she and I have known each other for 4 years. We've met up 5 or 6 times in real life because we've had to make an effort. We've had to go out of our way. We've had to do the like figuring it out. So I hired Megan. I joined Hello Life Academy in 2017, way out of my comfort zone financially. Like I didn't tell anybody, God forbid, people in my real life knew that I was investing this level of money into a coaching program, because back then, like, coaching was like a scam.
But yeah.
And I was even having to kind of mentally get over, like, I want to be a coach, yet I'm not, I didn't even know like what coaching was, but I knew it was on my thing, part of my plan. And I had to get over my own mental hurdles about what is coaching a scam? Am I a scam? And what I had to, like, literally, but anyway, that's another thing. I remember I was doing a lot of manifestation. I was really getting good at this, like, oh, I create my own reality and blah, blah, blah. And thoughts come to me. And I'm driving back from LA, from Northern California, to my gorgeous home in Santa Monica with one or both of my kids. They're in the back seat. And I'm like, I need a launch partner. I have these ideas. I have these programs. I have this stuff that I need to share with the world. How do I get it out there? I need a launch partner. I just made it up. Like, somebody needs to partner with me because I couldn't do it alone. And Megan was in my world. I was watching her. I probably signed up for something free that she did. And I was like, this girl is amazing. Like, you knew what you were doing. Like, you were a genius and you knew business, and you just spoke to me. And so I invested, and I was still very resistant to some of the work. And then there was this intensive weekend in Utah. And I remember I was a month or so into the work. I was really in resistance. I was very fearful. And I was like, you know what? I don't think I can make it. I can't keep up with these payments. How am I going to get the money to fly out there? Who's going to watch my kids? Blah, blah, blah. All these roadblocks, logs, and boulders were in my brain. And one of your coaches, directors, Cass, was like, hey, just come out for the weekend. You don't know what's going to happen for you. And if it still is not your jam after that, you can leave. I was like, I don't know. She had to convince me. But of course, I still had the decision to make. And then, like, I think the miracles, the universe sent my brother down for that very weekend. It was either my brother or my good friend who needed a place to stay. And I'm like, well, Sean's going to be here that weekend. Can you watch him too? Because I need to travel to this place. And they were like, yeah, I can do that for you. I was like, really? Like, oh, what? Okay. So then I got on a plane. I did this thing. You were trying to get on a plane down there. I had never met you before. That was that whole time it took, the flights were canceled, weather in Canada, all that hot mess of a situation. And you kept updating everybody. And I'm like, so what if she can't come? The rest of us are here, because I didn't just understand the power of Megan Lockhart more at the time. I was like, it's okay. The rest of us are here. We're doing this thing, blah, blah, blah. And it was the second night, I believe. You finally made it. You went through all what you were determined to get. 10 o'clock at night, Mary Poppins comes up the stairs in this gorgeous black wool cape. I'm here. And literally my life changed in that moment. I'm like, what are you? I don't know what it was, Megan. It was ridiculous. What came over me. And I was just like, who is this person? You were larger than life in such an amazing way.
Oh.
But I know that this is weird to hear, like, because you're just so normal and down to earth. But no, there was something big about you. Oh. And that is the weekend when we had a one-on-one session, or we were just kind of hanging out in that gorgeous log cabin that I also had seen in my visions a couple of weeks before. That's a whole other story. And you sat down with me and I said, well, here's my dream. In about 5 years, I want to be able to host retreats.
Yeah. Which would be like,
not even yet.
Yeah, not even happening yet.
Like 2 more years from now.
That's great. That's crazy.
And you're like, how about 5 months? And I'm like, oh God, you're crazy. You're crazy. But see, the thing is, you saw that within me. You saw my vision, and you held that vision. You're like, here we go. Let's sit down. And you mapped out a plan for me. And it wasn't 5 months, but it was the next year. It was maybe 10 months later in 2018, August of 2018 and September of 2018, I had my first 2 retreats. Yeah. And they were amazing. Let me just tell you. So that was, I almost didn't show up to that experience. And then I went to Banff 3 more times. I went to Palm Springs once. You came to visit me in Santa Monica 2 times, I think, you and Tyler.
Yeah.
And we've had just amazing, magical experiences online and in real life ever since. I will never forget that.
I really loved that experience. And, when I think about the time, like October's coming up, you would be coming up here to come to Banff.
Yes. And
then in January, February, we would be going to see you. And it's like, it's going to happen again. It's just, those in person, if you ever get the chance to meet someone in person and you're feeling those logs come down in front of you, I would say it's 100% worth it. Like, figure it out. Because it's so worth it. Like, if we would have continued our online dating, like our online relationship, we would have missed out on a lot of really intimate moments and like those real, like
the life-changing moments. There's so many memories. And I have to tell you, what's really interesting is that I actually have more connections in Canada than I do in California, because I've been up there 3 times. I'm in your circle, your group, and some of my closest friends are from Calgary because they're real relationships.
I just like, I'm obsessed with that, because it's like, I don't know, it's like, just do it. It's like, do it. Because the thing too with coaches is, I agree with you. When I first started the academy, I was like, why do people think this is a scam? But then I hesitated to even call myself a coach, because I was like, there's a whole world of people saying that it's not real, but it obviously is. But
it's funny, because we can easily go with like, I mean, where would I be without my soccer coaches? Where would Michael Jordan be without his basketball coach? Where would, A-Rod be without baseball coaches? That's the funny thing, because it's just a mindset shift. It's just, oh my God. And I see now, like, my clients are literally living very, very different lives as a result of their relationship with me, as I am as a result of my relationship with you, Katrina, Ruth, Amanda, Francis, all the people, Sarah Ann.
It's so powerful. And the thing for me is like, I always find that when you work with a mentor or a coach, you're connected to so many more people. Like
Yeah.
it's, if there's
Yes.
going to be, whether you're spending, you know, $100 a month or 1,000 or 10,000 a month, you're going to be connected with different people that you were meant to be connected with. And,
Yeah.
you know, we repeatedly said that in our marketing, because it was actually way less about me and more, it was nothing to do with me, more about the connections that you're going to leave with if you open up and let the river flow into those
Yeah.
relationships.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most powerful thing. So even, I don't know, like even just being part of this group, look at the connections that you're creating and people are creating amongst one another, the right earth angels. You're going
Earth
to
angels,
find your earth angels.
breadcrumbs, yes.
But if you never ever sign up or show up, it's really difficult for those earth angels to find you. It is. It's like,
yeah. Well, if it is a thing that is calling to you for whatever reason and you're not listening, then yeah, that is that is what it is. But I have to say, like, because of my relationship, my experiences with your intensives, I've become even more obsessed with hosting and leading and designing and creating retreats for my own, like that I know
and you came, I'm
to
having
change people's lives.
Really beautiful memories come up. You came to Banff last year, not last year, the year before, and you gave a whole workshop.
Oh my God, because you said, hey, do you want to speak? And I'm like, wait a minute, what? Yes. Because I had been writing in my vision board in my affirmations, I am on stage. I'm speaking to hundreds of women. I am changing lives with a microphone. I talk about my symbolic scenes all the time where Joe Dispenza is saying, hey, and let's hear Ginas' story. And like, and you gave me that opportunity and you have no idea what a big deal that was for me. And I just wish I had had a better videotape of it, better photos, because that was a huge moment for me. And I appreciate it so much.
It was so good. I
loved it.
I remember one of the exercises, like write a letter or write a review from a
testimonial.
Yeah. And I was like, God, like I can still hear that in my head. Like when you serve a client, what do you want them to write about you? Like, anyways, I have 2 children downstairs that are probably like, hey, mom, where are you? Or they're like, this candy's real good. Let's keep it.
Tell them I said hi.
I will. I talk about you all the time. And I'm like, remember Gina? She came over at Halloween and we played that scary music. She's like, but no, they remember you. And they, every time I talk about you, I talk about California, Gina.
California, Gina,
like,
yeah.
I'm like, are we going to go? And I'm like, yes.
Absolutely.
Soon. But
absolutely.
It'll be beautiful. Thank you so much for hanging out with me.
Thank you, Megan. That was so much fun. Oh my God, as per usual.
I know.
All right. Well, I will get you this recording and you can share it with whoever you want to. And if anybody wants to find Megan, I'm going to have in the links her Instagram and ways that you can just get to know her more and follow her. All right. Thank you. Bye. Thank you.